George, do you feel like a subject or a citizen?
Well, I am a subject, but I wish to be a citizen. One of the greatest anomalies in the 21st century has to be one of the world's most significant countries having a head of state whose only claim to the job is that they're the eldest male child of the previous head of state, whatever their abilities, even if they were Olympians. That would be bizarre. But when the House of Windsor is as mediocre and banal as it is, that makes the anomaly even harder to bear. And that has all sorts of implications because not only does the monarch have the power to dissolve the elected parliament of the day, refuse the elected prime minister the right to a general election, and exercise all sorts of powers, including the royal prerogative to make war against other people, though that's in practice delegated to people who think they're monarchs, like Tony Blair. But it permeates its way all through the society. We have no constitution. People used to say to me in the run-up to the war with Iraq, is it allowed under the British Constitution? And I had to rather shamefacedly explain that we have none. We have no Bill of Rights. We have no document which says this is your right, this is your responsibility as a citizen of the country. And that's why I've all my life been a Republican. And I look forward to the day, it might come sooner than we think, when the majority of our fellow subjects agree with me.
When should we bomb Iran?
Well, bombing Iran would be the biggest mistake anyone ever made. Iran is not a broken-backed country bled white by 20 years of war and sanctions like Iraq was. Iran is a very fiercely independent country of considerable weight, both militarily, economically, in terms of its energy resources, but most importantly, its religious importance in the world. And we'd be making ourselves something like 250 million new enemies, virulent, vibrant enemies, if we did that. And I like to think that even Gordon Brown's not that stupid.
A trivia question coming up. Can you name the owner of The Times, The Sun, Sky News, Sky Sports, MySpace, The London Paper and Fox News?
Well, I think they're all owned by Murdoch.
Great.
He's an American citizen, formerly a British citizen, formerly an Australian citizen. He's a serial patriot.
And can you, rather than the definition, just tell me what the word dictatorship means to you?
Dictatorship is a form of government where the interests of the mass of the people are virtually worthless, and only the dictator and the comprador around the dictator decide what happens. And even the best dictator, his period has to end in tears. Unfortunately, most dictators are not the best, but the worst.
I wonder if you had any feelings in any direction on the fact that 1% of the British population owns 70% of the British land.
Well, I think that land ownership is important. It's not as important as it was before, when we were an agricultural country, or even when we were a manufacturing country. Unfortunately, the 1 square mile of the land, which is the richest square mile on the earth, in the city of London, which abuts my constituency, is the worst form of land ownership.
In one day, Prince William recently spent £75,000 of taxpayers' money flying an RAF Chinook to his girlfriend's house and onto a stag do. With that in mind, do you think he should have to account for that? Do you think he should be punished?
Well, I'm glad you raised that, because I thought I was the only person in the land outraged by that. I wrote about it in my newspaper column, spoke about it on my radio programmes. It was the most brazen example by the heir to the throne, to whom I've had to pledge allegiance in order to sit in the parliament that the people of East London elected me to, because of course I'm required to pledge allegiance not just to Her Majesty, but all her heirs and successors, whomsoever they may be, and whatsoever they may be. And this is a reckless example, dangerous and reckless example of profligacy with public funds.
When your personal fortune reaches £2 million, on what will you spend the rest and why?
Well, I spend all the money I earn following a life which is virtually 24/7, other than the sleeping hours, which are fewer than they should be, in politics. So any money that comes my way gets put to good political use.
Which country locks up more of its people than Zimbabwe, China, Sudan, Syria, Burma or Saudi Arabia?
I couldn't honestly answer that question, but I'm going to take a guess that it's Saudi Arabia, our best friend in the Arab world. Would I be right?
It's actually the UK that locks up more of its citizens per capita. Yeah.
Well, we do have the most extraordinary prison population, more than 80,000 people locked up, so many that we have filled our prisons and now incarcerate people in police cells which are designed for overnight stays. And worse than that, something like 80% of our prisoners end up back in prison. So we have the highest prison population in Western Europe and the highest recidivism rate. So prison isn't working, that's for sure.
Complete change of subject. 80% of the world's ancient rainforests have either been degraded or destroyed already. And with that in mind, how long do you think it's going to take to destroy the remaining 20%?
Well, I think that we're on a helter-skelter to disaster with the way that we treat the earth that God bequeathed to us, and that is seen in the way that we slash and burn the natural resources which are irreplaceable, like the rainforest. So my guess is probably not that much longer. I am the father of a very young child, aged 1, with medical technology and so on as it is. He has a very good chance of living the best part of 100 years. My worry is what kind of world there will be in 100 years. His children may not have a world to live in at all.
Should we legalise cannabis?
No. I think what I call the stupefaction of the nation, which is principally alcohol based, is already one of our biggest problems. And to make it, to give the seal of approval which legalisation would do to yet another form of mass stupefaction would be a very big mistake.
And the final question. In London alone, 7,000 historic family-owned shops have disappeared in the last 6 years. Which is your favourite clone high street store and why?
Clone high street store? Waterstones.
Good choice. George, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.